So when I first started living on my own, I tried to come up with the simplest meal that I could that would fulfill most, if not all, of my nutritional needs. And now I just cook it every single day and eat it every single day. I've been doing this for quite a while, probably about at least 2 months now, but probably quite a bit longer than that. And somehow I haven't gotten sick of it. And I'll show you the reason why. Hot sauce. So this is a really simple meal. I have about 5 cups of rice, 3 pounds of ground turkey, 3 peppers, 1 red, 1 orange, 1 yellow. I'm going to do probably half of this onion. I have 1 box of spinach here. Got plenty of spices here, a little bit of black pepper, garlic, chili powder here on the bottom, paprika, sea salt, and cumin. And then, of course, some hot sauce, Frank's Red Hot. Not sponsored, but I would love to be. Hit me up. So why did I start meal prepping? Well, as a trainer, my schedule can vary a little bit week to week, and I'll often find myself in situations where I'm between sessions, but I'm still at work. So I need something to take with me, but I also need something nutritious and filling and something that I can just throw in the microwave. So when I moved in, this was the first solution that I came up with for a really simple meal that fulfilled basically all of my macronutrient needs and something that was easily repeatable. Get some prep done now, get a lot of meals out of it, and then move on. Now, don't get me wrong, variation is definitely really good in your diet, but for me personally, I've found that I can eat this pretty much every single day and not get sick of it. I'll attribute that mostly to the hot sauce, of course, but I've been pretty happy with it, and I think it gives me everything that I need. So while this may not necessarily work for everyone, this is what's working for me right now. I'd love to change it up eventually, but of course that would require an investment of time of learning a new formula or recipe or however you want to call it. So for now, this is working. So I'm going to show you kind of how I put together the meal, do a couple time lapses of me cutting up all sorts of materials, and show you how I prep it in the end. I always go rice first because it takes the longest to cook. So here I have this little cup that came with it, and it's about a little over 3/4 of a cup at the top. And now this isn't an exact science. I just kind of fill it the whole way. So it's a little bit more than 3/4 of a cup, maybe not a full cup. And then I'll put 6 of those in. 4, 5, 6. Perfect. I don't know the exact macronutrients or calorie counts for this entire meal prep, although I have all of the volumes or poundage or even quantity. So I guess you could go back and calculate that if you wanted. I'm not super concerned about that right now. I just know that I'm getting some vegetables, some leafy greens, some carbs, some protein in the turkey. There's 15% fat in the turkey. So I'm covering all my bases, and I'm full whenever I eat. So I don't really feel the need to track any further than that. I don't really know where I got this in the first place, but I rinse my rice, get some of that starch off the outside. I've just found that it leads to fluffier rice. So I'll just shake that up and I'll disturb it with my hand to kind of get some of that out, and then I'll strain it out. So usually you add 1.5 cups of water for every cup of rice that you have. But I heard that if you rinse your rice, you've already incorporated some water. So you just go 1 to 1. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but it's been working for me. That's what I usually do. So I'm going to go ahead and add 6 cups of this water. 3, 4, 5, 6. I always go rice first because it takes the longest. And the great thing about having a rice cooker is you can just plug it in, set it, and forget it. So we'll check back in on that later. Now I got to prep all these veggies, so we'll go time lapse for this one. As of now, that's all the veggies prepped. I got half an onion, 3 peppers, it's a lot of peppers. And I'm actually going to save the spinach for later because it cooks a lot faster, and you'll see why. The onions are kind of new this time around, so I'm only going to try with a half, and then maybe next time I'll go up if I need to. So I have this other half of onion that I could use later if I want. Now that my vegetables are prepped, it means I can start on the meat. I'm going to preheat this pan a little bit, add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil right into the pan, and I'm going to start with the onions. It can take being cooked for a really long time. It'll just smell super, super good when I add that in. It's definitely not looking like a lot of onions, but I think we're going to make do. I'm going to stick to my guns and try it this week, and then next week if I want to add more, I will. My stove is so embarrassingly dirty. Please don't make fun of me. I'll clean it eventually. Since the onions are sizzling now, we're going to go ahead and add the ground turkey here. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these open to the pan. Got 1, that's 2. And here's 3. 3 pounds, and I'm going to give them a quick cut, just so I don't have to completely try to break it up with my spoon. Don't do this, you'll ruin your nonstick pans. Do as I say, not as I do. I forgot to let this defrost as much as I should have, but the guy's got to eat, so we're going to do what we gotta. We'll call that good enough. Just going to go back and break this up a little bit now that it's been cooking. Give it a little flip, incorporate those onions, and then I'll add the spices in. It's a little bit better. We're going to add the spices now. I'm not exactly sure what ratios for spices are the best, but I've learned through just a little bit of experimentation that I like to have the most cumin, chili powder, which I'm basically out of, and paprika, with a little bit of garlic powder, some black pepper, and a good handful of salt. Cumin. Do about 3 teaspoons of that. Paprika. 2 heaping teaspoons. These are just approximations anyways. As much chili powder as I can get out of here. It's looking like just over 2, which is perfect. Do about 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. Like half a teaspoon of black pepper. And kind of just go to town on the salt. Probably fine. And now we give it a little bit of a mix. And we'll see some of those lovely colors start to emerge. Don't you just love dark pink, gray, and brown? I sure do. Rice is looking pretty bubbly at this point. It looks like it's almost ready, but it's still on this cook setting here. When it goes to warm, that's when I'll know it's ready. And now I got those spices incorporated a little bit, so it's starting to look a little bit better, but at this point we kind of just got to let it cook. And in the meantime, I'm going to start cutting up some of the spinach that I'm going to add. The spinach gets pretty bulky, but I like to add it in little bursts. It may be bulky now, but once it cooks down, it's going to be so tiny that you will barely even know there's a whole container of spinach in here. So I'm just going to give it a rough chop and add this to the cooking meat so that it'll cook down a little bit and it'll be ready for us to add some more in a little bit. And the turkey's starting to get really hot now. So if I sort of cover the spinach, over time it'll start to cook down. You can already see that some of these are starting to shrink a little bit. And after our first batch of spinach, I just heard this little click, which means the rice is ready. So I'm just going to go ahead and unplug it, let it steam off. So when we're ready for it, I'll use it. I literally went to go take the rice cooker off and came back, and the spinach is already so much smaller, which means we're probably ready for the second bit. And again, we'll see in a second how much this will shrink down. And after a quick stir, we're already here. Give this one last stir in. So now finally, we come in and add peppers. Because the turkey's looking pretty cooked, and I like the peppers to have a little bit of texture still. So I add them very, very close to the end, because they don't really need to be cooked to be safe. So I can add them later, just based on a preference of texture. Give it a little stir, and we'll just let that cook for a second. While I do, it's time to clean up a little bit. Put some of these spices away. Got to put chili powder on my shopping list. And now it looks a little bit better when it's all incorporated. Got plenty of colors here. Got those reds, oranges, yellows, those leafy greens, and that ground turkey with the rice to come in clutch. So I'm just going to give that another minute or two to finish up cooking, and then I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to do the meal prep after, because it's currently 12:42 and I haven't eaten yet. So I'm going to have a quick meal, and then I'll pack the rest of it up for later. When opening a rice cooker, always open it away from you, because that steam can be really hot and burn you. We're going to go ahead and plate this up. Really nothing better than some fresh rice. And we'll come take this off the heat. Let's get some of this. Oh, perfect. Obviously adding hot sauce. Don't judge me for how much I put on. A little stir. And there we go. The best, simplest meal that I could think of.